are back with another trade news roundup. I forgot the name for a little, but we're back, and I hope you enjoyed our anniversary week or still have to go listen because we launched episodes every day of last week with different type of categories such as crime, tech, and many more. You have to go check it out, listen to all of them. My favorite one is probably the crime one. But okay, well, that's all. We're going to go straight into the news. But last time I had promised that Lalo would give us the trait fact of France and the clown or whatever because I couldn't remember and Lalo had to leave. So I made him find it again so he can share it because, I mean, I can't let you guys down. So, Lalo, please enlighten us.
Well, apparently there's this law, an import provision in France that started around 2014 that they banned the importation of anything having to do with clown outfits, paraphernalia, anything having to be dressing up as clowns. As as it turns out, there were a lot of violence and weird things, I guess, going on in France with people dressed up as clowns around that time. And so, in order for them to eradicate that or get rid of it, they prevented the importation of clown outfits and clown shoes and anything having to do with clowns. The funny thing is that I can't find that they have revoked that law as of yet. I mean, I literally searched as much as I could, and I cannot find anywhere that law is no longer existing because this was back in 2014, almost 10 years ago. So you would think it'd be gone by now, but I don't know. If anybody knows, I guess you can comment on that or something because it turns out that it seems like it's still around.
Wonder what they do on Halloween. Like,
That's the thing. That's the reason why they decided to do this law is because they do not want, especially in Halloween, they don't want anybody dressing up as clowns. And some towns it was at the time. Again, I still can't find if it's true or not, but at the time it was illegal to dress up as a clown, even paint your face as a clown.
wow. Okay. Wow.
There's been some movies and things where, there's been some characters in there that were evil clowns and stuff like that. So that may come into play. But hey, if there are any of our listeners that may, especially if you're from France or have maybe some expertise on this particular fact, it would be great if you would reach out to us. We'd love to find out a little bit more on this one. Kind of just an odd little trade fact.
Yeah, we can do like maybe one of the crime show that we have. We can do odd trait laws or something weird like that. Things that are weird and are still in the books because back in the day it was right, and now it's kind of like strange. So I know here in Texas we have quite a few, and they try to clean them up every year. But I mean, there's weird stuff here in Texas that I not import or export laws. Just regular, civil and any kind of laws, that are very weird. But anyway, okay, so let's move on then.
Many weird ones. I will not have any comments. But anyways, we are Gen Z might think there's many weird laws. Okay. So we're going to the first article. I really had to keep my mouth shut now. We're going to the first article, which is, well, we've talked about strikes. So apparently there's one upcoming. Auto strikes are looming, threatening to shut Detroit's large 3. So apparently it's supposed to come on, if it does, September 14th, and it's in the auto industry. This supposedly is a big deal because, well, also electric vehicles are coming up. And I'm understanding that, while electric vehicles are made or whatever, there's less employees needed. And so there's quite of a difference between the union and the workers, I understand. But I really want to understand more about what's happening, what the outcome might be, and how does it affect the people? Will it affect the union? Will it affect the workers? Who's going to be happy with it?
In a world driven by innovation and global connectivity, there's one name that stands out above the rest: Schultz Trade Law. With over 30 years providing legal and consulting services to Fortune 500 companies, Schultz Trade Law knows the challenges that businesses face in navigating the complex landscape of international trade. The legal and regulatory hurdles can impede growth and drain resources. But fear not, because Schultz Trade Law has the solution. At Schultz Trade Law, they've harnessed their vast knowledge of real-world trade challenges and legal expertise to create a seamless experience for businesses engaged in international trade. Their team of legal experts know how to streamline import and export compliance, resolve trade disputes, and optimize global supply chain operations. Learn more at schultztradelaw.com, where legal expertise leads the way to global success. Well, if you recall, we have made comments on this, and I have in particular for sure, where the unions seem to be emboldened with this administration and in this era, where they start out with the longshoremen on the western seaboard, even going all as far as up north into Canada, and going out on strike. And we said that there was that, and at the time I said, there's also going to be the Teamsters that would be taking on UPS. Well, that's come to fruition. I said after that's going to be the automakers, and then after that's probably going to be the railroads, and then whoever else. But the main point here is in that, generally speaking, when it's contract negotiation time and all that, the UAW will zero in on a specific automaker and take an extreme position always and whatnot, and wind up working out some kind of an agreement, whether they go on strike or they threat to go on strike, and work that out with that one automaker. And then whatever's worked out in there is what they'll use as a benchmark with the other major players. But that all said, here's the other thing is interesting about that. You just mentioned that where apparently the manufacturing of EVs is a much more automated manufacturing process. So it requires fewer employees on the line. So the union is taking that on, but yet at the same time, these same unions were very supportive in pushing and with Congress and with the initiatives and the policies thereof, pushing for EVs to be put forward, as well as a minimization of the petroleum-based combustion engines. So now they're coming back. It's like, be careful for what you wish, because look, they have fewer positions on the line, and they're trying to hang back on that. And it's like, well, this is probably a good example where a union is trying just to push the number of employees, if you will, for them, and not embrace automation. So I just we'll just see how this goes. But if now my takeaway on this is, if you are a vendor out there that is looking, you've got orders for vehicles, you understand there's going to be a slowdown, and it's probably already started. If you are a vendor of one of the automakers, you're going to wind up potentially, you better be looking at it and scheduling and planning for a strike. And if it happens, obviously plants will be shut down, which means you yourself, the secondary is that you're supplying parts. Well, they're going to stop taking parts. So your own manufacturing process will slow down and or stop. So just be aware of that and be planning for that, and or look for other markets for your products.
Yeah, I guess that, and in my part, yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, other than the strike, of course, I mean, strikes happen, and things are gonna happen. If they do, I guess the good news is that I think I read somewhere that they're about a week or two of still making that final decision. Yeah, yeah, of negotiations to figure out a contract or something. Ironically, this has a lot to do with green energy. Apparently, the new EV cars are creating a reduction in workforce because it requires a lot less labor, um, human labor to put the cars together. And so therefore, of course, you're not building engines anymore, you're not building transmissions anymore. um, and so that's reducing the labor force, and that's creating you know problems there. But besides that, the what I was going to say is exactly what you said, Andy, is about the logistics of this. What affects trade in this whole thing? I mean, aside from the fact that you're not going to be shipping cars anymore if they do go on strike, the other problem is the logistics of this. Why the logistics? I mean, it slows down your supply chains. It creates disruptions on your supply chain because now, like you said, part manufacturers. Well, what the heck are they going to do? I mean, who are they going to ship to? What are or who is going to get parts of parts, to create and to build other stuff. I mean, not everybody. I mean, you might have an auto parts manufacturer that also manufactures for and even aftermarket. I mean, it doesn't mean that they're all going into new cars. So there's going to be a major disruption there if that happens. And so that was my take on it as well. It's just that I did see that's going to create some sort of disruption if there is a strike. And of course, aside from the fact of talking about the politics of the strike and who's right, who's wrong, and all that, I'll leave that to other podcasts that are dedicated to that. But as far as trade is concerned, that's just my take on it: is the logistics and the disruptions and supply chains of it. So
Well, and one of the things too I would just mention is that if again an action step here, not only should you be planning as far as schedules and all that if you're an executive, the other thing is if you're an executive, if you're in the billing area, whatever, of some of these vendors, you better be generating your invoices and get them out the door as quickly as you can, because in the disruption, obviously, it slows down the accounting process and all that. So, just as a point of reference, there, you might want to be looking at your days billed outstanding, and more specifically, is look to see how fast you can increase the billing rate to get out the door to some of these automakers, because you're going to wind up going into a cash flow issue once the strike hits or starts slowing things down, because they'll use that to not pay you. So, FYI.
Yeah, I I'm kind of worried because I mean it sucks also for the workers because if you lose your job, I don't know. I mean it's a weird topic, right? And I that's not really trade related. I feel like the whole working situation, right?
yeah, the working situation is not, but like I said, I mean, there are factors with that affect trade. I mean, very obviously trade and logistics, and that's why I said, I mean, the politics of that is something else. But I mean, for our listeners, like Andy said, what are your actions and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's important. And again, I feel like at this point, you have to react fast, but you can only react fast if you know and if you educate yourself and if you're aware of the problems that are happening around you and not in just your company, right? Because otherwise you wouldn't know and then you're stuck somewhere because you didn't do the research or didn't have the right resources. Okay, moving on to Article 2. We have USTR extends reinstated and COVID related exclusions from China's Section 301 tariffs. So, I get that it's like an extension of what it already has, and it's going to be a 4 more years, and then they do different, like they do like this 4 year process, and if after 4 years it doesn't seem relevant anymore, they let it go. But it just seems that the word COVID related kind of was weird to me because I know it still exists, but to me in the trade industry, I don't understand why it still exists because it's not like an issue right now. Like it's just like I don't, whatever I say now, it's really hard because people have different opinions. But I just want to understand why it is going on in trade and if this maybe just has something to do with that no one is really in favor of China right now, and that's why they just kept it going.
Well, remember, China is playing extremely aggressive in international trade, and it's not just with the U.S. It's with multiple countries right now. But the 301 tariffs that are put in, these exclusions, there were people that justified an exclusion, whether it's short term, long term, whatever, based on some things. Um, all said and done, um, I guess I will just say that some of these things, are going to be healthcare related, hence the COVID extensions. The other types of things are looking in there, they're not necessarily healthcare related, but I will say that this is just another scenario where we're in my opinion, I guess this is just purely my opinion. I think we're sucking up to China again, and I think this is a deal where they put these exclusions in, then they run out and they expire, and then we got people going back and through. The only thing about this deal is, remember, China's playing very aggressive. U.S. does not have full access to the U.S. market, and even with the tariffs, China has access to the U.S. market here. U.S. does not have access to the Chinese market, is what I meant to say, I guess. And with that, it's frustrating, and it's like, okay, you know what? If you're going to play by the rules here, then China, you need to open up your market, and everybody has to be competitive on the international realm. And so China's not doing it. And yet here we're sucking up to them going, oh, it's okay. Let's do the exclusions here. Doggone it, folks, find somebody else to do and supply your goods because, to China's credit, now I have a lot of respect for them. I don't agree with their approach, but I have a tremendous amount of respect for the Chinese and their government in that they're playing hardball and we're playing, minor leagues here, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah, and I understand that as well. I mean, it's I guess just the facts or the details of this. It's these exemptions are being extended from they were set to expire the end of the month. Now they're extended through the end of the year, and so yeah, it's just a matter of and then as Andy says, what is your action plan if you're in trade, like it or not? I mean, that's what's happening. I mean, you do need to plan for that. Now you have 301 exemptions, like I said, through the end of the year, and you can still um, not worry about those tariffs coming in through the end of the year. But again, like Andy said, also, I mean, and this is more of a personal opinion as well, is why are we still having to deal with that? Why can't we find other alternatives to sourcing? Mexico's really close. I mean, maybe it's a little more pricier, but why do we have to always rely on that? I mean, I understand that completely. It does make sense. So, and I am with you on that. It shouldn't have to be that way. In other words, that we have to continue to do exemptions after exemptions after exemptions. Because this is not the first one. I believe it won't be the last one either.
Yeah, and it comes back to, again, in my opinion, maybe I'm wrong in this, and again, I'm not. This is making a generalized statement for everything. There's probably some legitimate exclusions, but after this amount of time and what's been going on, and this is not a Trump Biden scenario. This is just a scenario where you've got your exclusions, and you've got companies that have had more than sufficient time to find other sources or figure this all out, and then really, so basically, you're going for a scenario here where you're sacrificing U.S. jobs to get the cheaper imports in from China. Bottom line. So, folks, if that irritates you, talk to me. Come on. Let's debate this, because I'm going to tell you, I am one that it's like you got to play hardball to gain the respect, and China right now does not respect the U.S. nor the administration nor any of our commodities. And people can say whatever they want, but the average person is fed up with this kind of crap.
Yeah, I wonder if someone like knows that we're truly benefiting from that. They could come on and tell us why we're benefiting so much from this.
Well, I agree. Annik, that is a great point. And so, folks, if you're really want to look into this, the U.S. Trade Office is who has announced this um, reinstatement of the exclusions. The question is of course that comes from top down, if you will, in the administration. All said and done, if you want to become a squeaky wheel in this, look to see the House members and the Senate members who have oversight of the U.S. Trade Office, and the commerce and those kinds of things, and put in some requests to them, phone calls and emails to your senators and representatives, and say, what the hey, and again, this is just another shot at U.S. jobs being sacrificed for somebody else's. Who benefits from this? A foreign manufacturer.
I know, but you know what? I told you guys, China's always back in the business. I don't know. They always want us to talk about them. And here they are on the podcast again. We should be sponsored. No, I will not say that. I will not say be sponsored by China. No, that's actually bad because we talk really. No, we don't talk bad. We're just talking. Well, I don't. Anyways.
Listen, I have respect for them. Like I said, I have respect for them, but I don't agree with them. If I don't agree, I'm calling them out. So here we go.
No. There's nothing bad. Exactly. Okay, we're going to the third article, which I guess we already told you it's also about China. So Hawaii iPhone, or no, I'm sorry, it's not an iPhone. Hawaii would not be an iPhone.
Huawei.
Hawaii phone.
What is Huawei?
You saying Hawaii?
It's actually funny because that's what I did say, and I was like, "This is not how you spell Hawaii."
No,
I really was so confused with this. Yes, sorry. Okay.
Huawei is pronounced Huawei, but it's like, hey, listen, my southern tongue here would look at it and do the exact same thing.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, go ahead.
Huawei phone. I made two mistakes. I said Hawaii and I said iPhone. Okay. Okay. Huawei. I knew it wasn't Hawaii. I just don't know how to pronounce this stupid name. Huawei phone is the latest shot fired in the US-China tech war. So this is really interesting. This was actually really interesting because so basically this article is saying that Chinese does not need anything from us, right? And they can create big things without us. You know how we made all these what is it called with the little chips that yes, so how we cannot ship them anymore there or whatever. So I kind of find this scary, and I don't know what the US can do to this whole situation in the article, and I just want to hear your opinions on it and how you think it's going to develop.
Well, let me jump right in here since I'm on a roll here. All right, Huawei, folks, remember, Huawei is a technological manufacturing company, and in that, going back a ways, is that Huawei was manufacturing wireless routers that many people put in their offices. They were put into the Pentagon. They were put in, lots of government offices and whatnot. And it was a wireless router where you would go and you could be using your laptop, your smartphone, whatever, and doing emails or making phone calls over the network, or scrolling, as far as the internet, or even transferring files wirelessly from one system to another. As it turned out, and what really brought Huawei to the forefront here on being sanctioned by the U.S., it was discovered that these wireless routers were making a copy and storing that data of whatever transmitted through their wireless router. And then at night, it was transmitting that data back to China. And so the scenario was stealing is basically espionage, is what it is. But in that is that's where literally the wireless routers were had to be literally removed from the Pentagon and from any of the government offices, as well as then there was actions taken to ban Huawei and their equipment and all that. So there's that. That said, remember the U.S. has then put a ban on shipping advanced microchips to China in an effort to try and prevent China from developing such things as the smartphone, as well as other things that could be done with that, with weapons to other types of technology. So this effort where Huawei has developed a phone and somehow has circumvented the advanced chip and has gotten their hands on them or manufactured their China's claiming they manufactured it. US is saying it's somehow still US technology. Regardless, Huawei has released this new phone. Now, if you look at the timing, again, I come back to the scenario here where the US government is sucking up to China because we have top executives or officials of the administration going over to China and, trying to, hey, let's work together, let's do all these things and whatnot, hat in hand. And in this release, there have been manufacturers that have also now released covers for these phones. And guess what they have on the covers? Secretary Raimondo's picture on there that is now saying, she's in, implying that she's, or not implying, but they actually, it's a mock up, but saying that she's endorsing the Huawei phone and all that. Of course, that's false, but it's a play on this whole thing. So all said and done, it's just like it is extremely insulting. China has no respect for the U.S. or its officials right now. You have this release. Some say, well, it's just a coincidence. BS. That is the scenario. The release of that in the visits of our top officials to China, and now they're releasing this phone. So the very sanctions and the effort that the U.S. is trying to say about not shipping advanced technology to China, China's now coming back around and saying, "See there, we can go on without you." So again, China's playing hardball, Huawei in particular. And this is just another scenario here, folks. That look at what we're dealing with here. So if you're continuing on to try and use China as a source for your manufacturing, this is the kind of stuff that's happening where they're utilizing the technology one way or the other, and you're supporting it if you're using them.
Wow. Yeah. And it's funny because as I was reading this, and even now as you're saying this, Andy, it reminds me of it. Has anybody, any of you two, ever seen that show Parks and Rec?
No. Oh, yes, yes, yes. It's with that blonde girl.
Yeah. It reminds me. It, re- it reminds me of an episode on there. It was called like I don't remember, Sister Cities, or I don't remember. But anyway, that Fred Armisen, that comedian, was on that episode, and he was a representative of the Venezuelan Parks and Rec, and they were he came in and they were basically like you said, Andy. We were kissing their butt in the show. They're kissing their butt because they're going to be donating money and everything, and then in the background they were saying in Spanish, they were saying, "Oh, we are fulfilling Chavez's." Desire to insult and make fun of America. And here they are. They don't like things like that. And then, but of course, in English, they didn't know what was going on. But they had a Spanish-speaking employee in the U.S. Parks and Rec, and they figured it out and everything. And they got mad. They tore up the check and everything. So I think that's what we need to start doing: is start tearing up that check, and move forward. But anyway, it's funny. Uh, I don't have any more comments other than that. I just thought that was funny, and I mean, it's pretty much the same as the previous story. It's we do need to find ways to break our ties, and companies keep on circumventing any sanctions or any. I mean, at the time when Huawei got fined, that was actually the largest fine in the history of violations that the U.S. has ever imposed on anybody. In fact, it might still be the largest fine. I don't know. I haven't looked at it.
Well, it's just an effort to try and, again, it's being punitive against them. By the way, folks, if you're interested in the article on the Huawei phone that we're talking about, it was published in the New York Times. The previous comment where we were talking about the 301 tariff exclusions, that came out of the the Federal Register and the U.S. Trade Office. Yeah, so we'll have the links in our show notes. But here we go.
That is it. Okay, well, lots of China. I'm sorry, guys, but really nothing else happened. It's the world's always fun, and no, I'm sure there's more stuff that happens, but that is the thing. If our listeners, we would love for you guys to send in things that you guys see and you're like, I don't know, like this kind of relates to my job. I don't know what to do. I mean, there's probably experts that can also help you with this, but Lalo and Andy always have great things that maybe will spark something in you that be like, okay, this is what I need to do. So again, send those in, and it will also make it a lot easier for me because sometimes I don't know if this is good to talk about or if this is boring or if this is like, Anyways, what do I have? I have something else. Okay. I actually do have a fact. I have a fact and a joke. So if you don't want to listen to this, you can log out now because all the important information is gone. The most traded commodities. Do you know what it is?
Most traded commodities?
Yes.
What traded commodities just in the world or in
yes.
the U.S.?
Yes. Like
I would
in
say
the world, like
something
trade.
having to do with food, like grains or something.
I would say petroleum, and second to that would be agriculture, like grains.
Yeah, food. Yeah.
Yeah, it's oil. The first one is oil because it says while you might think of technological gadgets or cars as the most traded items, it's actually oil. I actually wasn't thinking about cars, so I don't know. Yeah, so that is the fact.
Yeah, well, and keep in mind, the oil is used in so many different facets other than outside the automotive industry. I mean, you've got heating oil, you've got plastics that are made, you've got all kinds of things, lubricants and different things that are used from petroleum. So
Before we sign off, I would just want to say today is the 23rd, 22nd anniversary since 9/11. And I guess just a big thank you to all our frontline people and everything. And, that got us through that at the time. And I know a lot of military and a lot of frontline workers have transitioned over to logistics and trade. And welcome, thank you for all that and everything you did for us. But I just wanted to acknowledge that. So, but thank you.
Yeah, and to the families that are still missing those that were killed on 9/11 and whatnot, we, folks, continue to the hopes, prayers, and lifting these people up in your prayers and their families, because there's now, 1 and 2 generations since then. So with that, and as well as our country, we just we need to be unified as a country. And we support our first responders and we support our military. So thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us. Simply Trade is brought to you by the generous contributions of Global Training Center. You can follow the show and GTC on LinkedIn or Twitter and other social networks. Make sure you check out the show notes in the description for a full rundown of today's show with all the important links. Also, make sure that you share this with a friend and subscribe on your favorite streaming platform. We really like hearing from you. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to rate and review wherever you listen to this podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the show or would like to sponsor Simply Trade or suggest any topic you would like for us to discuss, please contact us via email at simplytrade@globaltrainingcenter.com, or you can DM us on Twitter at simplytradepod. Thank you again for the privilege of your time. Happy trading. Simply Trade is not a law firm or an advisor. The topics and discussions conducted by Simply Trade hosts and guests should not be considered and is not intended to substitute legal advice. you should seek appropriate counsel for your own situations. These conversations and information are directed towards listeners in the United States for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only and should not be substituted for legal advice. No listener or viewer of this podcast should act or refrain from acting on the basis of information on this podcast without first seeking legal advice from counsel. Information on this podcast may not be up to date depending on the time of publishing and the time of viewership. The content of this posting is provided as is. No representations are made that the content is error-free. The views expressed in or through this podcast are those of the individual speakers, not those of their respective employers or Global Training Center as a whole. All liability with respect to actions taken or not taken based on the contents of this podcast are hereby expressly disclaimed.